Hi, everyone. Happy Monday. I'm your host, Mallory McCoy, and welcome to this week's live stream episode of A Monday Moment with Mal. As always, may this broadcast bring you exactly what you need in the present moment, and may my love and my light exude positivity and kindness to all who could use a little extra. Ashe, let's seize the moment. First of all, I am hip deep in gratitude this week. It is pouring rain outside, and I am thankful because I didn't have to get to go to the car wash to wash my car. So thank you, beautiful Mother Nature. I'm also grateful for the abundance of beautiful energy around me. I just feel like I'm in my flow, and I'm incredibly grateful for that because it's how I function best in a beautiful flow. So thankful for all of the great energy around me. Let's talk about Beyonce's Cowboy Carter. It is a musical masterpiece. I am still blown away, and I'm grateful for her music as it has served as the soundtrack to my soul for the last 4 years, I guess, since the Gift album came out, her version of The Lion King. It was absolutely beautiful. Still watch it till this day. My favorites on this album so far are Riverdance on repeat, Two Hands to Heaven, 16 Carriages, and Tyrant. And I love them all, but like I said, these four are in heavy rotation. And so I've also adopted a cowboy drawl. So thank you to Beyonce and Cowboy Carter for my adopted drawl. Also, shout out to my household. They are cohesive this week and last week. And again, when things flow in my life, I am much happier. So, because sometimes life be lifing, but I'm going to try to press the easy button on everything I can. So I'm grateful for that. And today marks the day that I am officially 1 month away from defending and becoming Dr. Mallory D. McCoy. Oh my gosh, it is surreal. I can't even put into words exactly how I feel about this moment. So I won't. I won't even spend time on it today because I'm just soaking it all in. I'm just taking it all in for what it is. And also, if you're in Kansas City, go vote because tomorrow is voting day. It's a very important voting day. School boards specifically, but other things on the ballot too. So today's topic, and actually all of April, will be devoted from my end to either autism or parenting. And in my life, they go hand in hand. They go together. They're synonymous because that is how the lens that I parent from is through a lens of having a child with autism. And in my life, one does not exist without the other. So, also, April marks the beginning of Autism Awareness Month, and April 2nd is World Autism Awareness Day. So, as the awesome mom that I am, I just feel like I should be a part of the conversation to help educate others as I have been educated as a person who is viewed in the world as being neurotypical. And I'll talk about that. So y'all know I love me a good definition, and I'm team facts over feelings. So let's get into it. Dictionary.com defines autism as a developmental disability of highly variable presentation, commonly characterized by social and communication differences, repetitive behaviors, intense specialized interest, and differences in sensory processing. That is the very formal definition, but I love that in the Maori language of New Zealand, the word autism means in his or her own time and space. That's exactly what it is to me. So I love and I have adopted that definition because everything is in their own time and space. We can also use the term neurodivergent or neurodiversity, which means the variation and differences in neurological structure and function that exist among human beings, especially when viewed as being normal and natural rather than pathological. I will also in this space refer to ableism, which is defined as discrimination against disabled people. So, like racism, sexism, ableism. Autistic people and people who are people with autism are people. And when talking about people with autism, you must center their voice because if not, you are an ableist. So, shout out to CNN, shout out to the US Department of Health and Human Services, Office of Early Childhood Development, and a blog by James Ward Sinclair, who is an autistic person, for providing the following facts. The most recent statistics came out in March 2023, pulled data from 11 different sites in the United States and reported that 1 out of every 36 kids is autistic. The study before that estimated about 1 in 40, and about 10 years ago, the autism rate was 1 in 100 or even lower. This does not mean that autism is more prevalent. It just means that there's more research around being able to identify one with autism. Number 2, ASD, autism spectrum disorder, is about 4 times more likely in boys than girls at this current moment. But we do know, as research has shown, that autism does not look the same in girls as it does in boys. In fact, there are many studies to support that autistic females will mask their condition to mimic other people. Number 3, ASD, autism spectrum disorder, affects children of all racial, ethnic, and society or socioeconomic groups. There's other research that has found that it is higher or more prevalent in Black boys specifically. However, they are underdiagnosed as far as autism is concerned. So, pretty interesting. Autism and intelligence are not linked. In fact, everybody is neurodivergent to some extent. For example, if you look at a simple IQ test, a substantial portion of people will perform really badly on one specific item. That doesn't mean they have problems. It just means that we all have strengths and weaknesses. Dr. Daniel Geschwin says, I think we have to accept that intelligence is not just one thing, that cognition isn't one thing, that there's not just one way to behave. Number 5, though they may have certain commonalities, no two autistic children or adults are precisely the same. Number 6, early identification of ASD helps children get the services they need. Number 7, typically, the earlier children are diagnosed and receive services, the better their outcomes are. Number 8, children with ASD can learn and succeed in the classroom and beyond. Like every child, with the help of their families, providers, doctors, specialists, and communities, kids with ASD can thrive. Number 9, autism changes over time. So children with autism may change their presentation as they grow. And lastly, autism is a lifelong condition. That means that those who were autistic children will grow up to become autistic adults. That brings me to the topic of the week. And if you follow me in any capacity of my social media, you've known that I've been candidly open about my journey with my autistic son. There's a lot of things I don't share on social media because it is a lot. It has been a lot. Today, I don't want to center him, although he is an autistic person. I want his story to be told in the way that he will communicate it when the time is right. But today, I'm going to tell from my point of view, because I never want to tell my story for him. I never, or tell his story for him. I never want to present as an ableist. So I'm going to tell, like I said, my story. And honestly, this part of my story is new to me. So I'm still processing some things about it and asking as many questions as I can about it. But I, if I'm being honest, I think I'm autistic and I may have ADD, um, because I would have a really hard time focusing on things. And here's how I came to this conclusion. Well, the autism part, I haven't even dove into the ADD part, but I think it's a brewing in there because the struggle is real. So, as I was saying, my son was diagnosed with autism in July 2019. And in that time, I spent a while in shock, but I put my boots on the ground and I learned everything I could about how to help him while learning about autism. In hindsight, I wish I would have just focused on learning him and what he needs, because I don't believe in the blanket approach to everything. Um, and right now, ABA is what's pushed at you as like the blanket approach, but that's not the beginning and that's not the end. It's one way. Um, I, I won't even talk about his experience because that's not what I'm talking about today. But if you ever wanted to know about ABA, you could, in my experience with ABA, maybe I'll share it in another live. Anyway, when he got diagnosed, one of the first things you look for is like, how did this happen? And one of the things that come up is that it could be potentially genetic. And so when I went and looked down my side, no one on my side of the family has ever been diagnosed with autism. On my husband's side of the family, there's been a few family members that have been diagnosed with autism, but none directly. It's like in his first cousin, second cousin window, um, no one has been diagnosed with autism. Um, but it was not until December 9th, 2023, when I saw this infographic posted on my friend's Facebook page, that I even considered that I might even be autistic. Because I don't know if you can see the whole thing, so I'll make it bigger. So, my son has most of the characteristics on the left. So when I read that, I was like, no big deal. Like, yeah, that looks about right. Um, and but when I looked on the right, and I was like, okay, I'm counting through, and I'm realizing like 11 of them, 11 of the characteristics on the whole chart could refer to me. And then I had to walk myself backwards through my childhood and my adulthood to see like where I might have had these characteristics all along, and they just were pushed under the rug, or pushed, or maybe not even recognized at all, just a part of a personality trait. And so that's really what I'm walking through right now, is the just trying to discern like what's an actual personality trait and what might be a characteristic of autism. So I conclusively self-determined that I'm neurodivergent based on the following facts. Um, Number one, I'm overly friendly at times, and I used to get in trouble for it all the time. But now, I mean, people just kind of accept that I'm overly friendly. But what also comes with that is really, really a deep need to people please. And I've tried to place like whether that is a trauma response or it's actually um, a characteristic of me being neurodivergent, but I can't quite place it just yet. But it aligns with my number two, which is I at one time had zero boundaries. And I'm certainly getting better with boundaries and creating boundaries, but I struggled, and I was bullied a lot. Um, I was just socially awkward a lot of my childhood and growing up in the middle. I just remember being a lot. So sorry to my friends. But again, I've grappled with whether it's a personality trait or um, a trait of autism. So, or an autistic characteristic. So Number three, I used to be the student that hugged everyone all the time. I always needed deep pressure, and my son, he also needs and desires and wants deep pressure. But I also grew up in a non-affectionate family, and so I'm trying to figure out, like, is it trauma related or autism related? That's a lot to discern. Number four, um, I am a very fabulous actress. I should get an Oscar because no one can ever know if I am not doing well, because I'm always wanting others to do well. So I never express how I actually feel. Well, not never. I shouldn't use an absolute. Not never, but I don't really swear on my person how I'm feeling unless it's like really bad. And when I was younger, I was like the perfect student, teacher's pet. I always kept straight A's. I was obsessed with learning the biggest words I could conjure up. And like I said earlier, I was a consistent people pleaser. Um, and another part to that is that I was in the gifted program at my school, second grade through eighth grade, and I think that because I was so smart and had such a thirst for knowledge, that if I was ever considered to be on the spectrum or have ADD, like I mean, in the 90s, they weren't testing for stuff like that if you had the other. So now kids can be what's called twice exceptional. If you don't know what twice exceptional is, or 2E, I suggest that you look it up, because I learned it as part of my teaching career, and I was really blown away because as soon as I read about a 2E person, I was like, oh, that could have been me for real. But again, I was never formally diagnosed. Number five, I still, to this day, frequently interrupt people, and it's not with the intention of being rude. I just truly will forget what I'm going to say if I don't say it right at that moment. Um, and because I'm such a deep processor and I have to process conversations, sometimes I'll think about a conversation for like a week. It'll play on loop in my mind. And then I'll go back and I'll be like, oh, remember we were talking about this? I need to make this point because I thought about it. So I struggle in the moment to uh, to think fast, to think on my toes, which for people that I work with or have worked with, that may surprise them. I'm only good in some facets. Certainly musically, I'm really good and can fire on all cylinders in that space. But in other spaces, I struggle. Number six, I'm notorious for oversharing, but that's why I created a platform to overshare. But I used to just, and still sometimes do, free flow the information. So it's important to keep information to yourself. I'm learning, I'm growing. Number seven, I'm highly distressed with change. That is out of my control. I'm certainly better than I ever was. Thank you to my son for teaching me about being able to change. When I met my husband, Raymond, he used to always make fun of me because everywhere we went, I would get chicken strips and fries. And I know now that, because I have the language to say and the knowledge to say, that that combo for me was a safe food. It wasn't the healthiest food, but it was a safe food and a safe meal for me. And so now, fast forward, I'm flipping tables to change. But also, I'm astrologically wired to not change. So it's truly, truly, truly a fight to discern the difference between the two. Number eight, this is what got me through school. I have photographic memory, so I can read what's on the page. And when I was younger, because it was way better then than it is now. But I used to be able to tell you what paragraph it was in, what page it was on, any information I was trying to recall. That's why I was that's why I was and still am a really good test taker, because I could remember what I was studying, because especially if it was like study facts and then apply it. Now how they do tests, I may excel, may not, but if it was just a fact that I had to remember, I could easily do it. No big deal. Um, and so, yeah, thank you, photographic memory. Number 9, I thrive in routine. Like I really do. Like everything has to be structured. Again, I'm way better than what I was. But to give you an example, in my college years and in my high school years, in my planner, I would write down like every hour what I was doing. So I would label each line 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., and everything was structured. That's why I've stayed in school so long since I was 3 years old, because school is so structured. And so I thrive in that space. But sometimes it's kind of overboard. And when I look at my son, he has like the internal clock where he knows when it's 30 minutes. We go to gymnastics, or he goes to gymnastics, and his lesson's a half an hour, and right at the 29-minute mark, he's walking over to me and grabbing my hand and ready to go because his lesson's almost over. And I'm like, how does he do that? And he doesn't even know how to tell time, but he just knows. And so super routine. And then number 10, probably my biggest giveaway when I think about it, is my inability to give direct eye contact. I struggle with it very heavily. So, like, for example, I remember one of my college friends specifically just saying to me, like, Mallory, you never look at me in my eye. And yeah, I I realized at that moment, and it was like since that moment I became self-conscious. And so I would like intentionally try to look people in their eye, because I was like, I wonder, how many other people have been around me and said like, oh, she never looks at me in the eyes. But it's not that I don't want to, it's just that I struggle. And people with autism, I'm sure that they don't want to, or they want to, but they just can't. Like if I'm focusing on giving you eye contact and you're talking to me, like sometimes I forget what people are saying to me because I'm so focused on giving them eye contact. Um, and so, but when I get self-conscious because that tape of you don't look me in the eyes, it plays in my mind. Like I'm like hyper obsessed over, somebody, and self-conscious over somebody saying like, hey, you didn't give me eye contact. And sometimes like with my students, I'll see them looking behind them, like I'm looking behind them, but I'm trying to look at them. But it really is a struggle. And so if you're in my life and you're like, dang, she never gives me eye contact, like it's really uncomfortable for me. And I'm really like trying to, but also it like, I don't know, I really struggle. So um, I'm thankful for conversation and connection in my life, because like just last week I had parent teacher conferences with my kindergartners that I'm subbing for, and their parents. It was student led, but their parents. And I got in a conversation with a mom and a dad who were diagnosed with ADHD in their adult life, and they're currently taking stimulants to help them focus. And so I got to talk. They opened the door, but then I walked right through it, and I got to ask them, what was it like to be an adult that is diagnosed? And so because I'm asking the questions because I really want to know if it would be beneficial for me to get diagnosed as an adult. So I would like for you to chime in. If you think that it could be beneficial for me to get diagnosed and that it would be helpful, or you want to simply share your diagnosed story, DM me or hit me up in the comments, please. So my call to action for this episode and for you this week is to educate yourself about what it means to be neurodivergent. And do not lean on your own understanding or experience with one person that you've contacted or been in contact with that has autism or some other some other thing that they are dealing with in their life. Okay. And to avoid being an ableist, center neurodivergent voices and listen louder than you speak. I cannot wait to the day that my son is able to not speak. He currently is nonverbal, but to communicate to me in all the ways that I can understand just what he's going through. Because right now, we're building his vocabulary on his talking device. His way to communicate verbally is limited to what we know he knows on the touch chat pad, but I want him to know more. So as he grows in life, I just really can't wait to hear how he communicates his experience. And lastly, prioritize expressing love, patience, kindness, compassion, empathy for others above all things, period. Not even because they're neurodivergent, because period. All the people are all our people. And so knowing that we're merely reflections of each other, it's important for us to have the same interaction that we want somebody to have with us. And to wrap up, I will leave you with a few quotes, or a quote, not a few quotes. Where's my quotes at? Quotes. All right, here are just a quote. What? It is not our differences that divide us. It is our inability to recognize, accept, and celebrate those differences. Audre Lorde. And then affirmations for today or for this week. What? I'm tired. Sorry. I deserve to exist. My brain works differently, but that doesn't make me wrong or inferior. My contributions to society deserve recognition and respect. I will be divergent. I will be myself. There is always more than one right way, and those who love me will love all of me. I think that one's so important. And then I love this quote that I put up behind me. I know of nobody who is purely autistic or purely neurotypical. Even God had autistic moments, hence why planets spin. And I had to shorten it because it was a little bit longer, but Jerry Norman said that. Hey, we made it to the end. Thank you for rocking with me. I appreciate your attention to this topic. Next week, I'm going to be talking about parenting. So tune in for a show called Parenting or Parenting Sucks. I haven't decided which title I'm going to use yet. Yeah. Until then, love and peace to all of you. Have the best week.